Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cooking with Chef Carole, sponsored by Plant Powered Metro New York. My name is Wendy Sachs, and I'm happy to welcome you to our monthly series with Chef Carole, presented by PPMNY, which is an organization that empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food, plant-based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence-based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and inspire change. And together, as leaders, organizers, and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition. We empower individuals to make their own lifestyle adjustments, and we lead projects that spark changes in food policy, food practice, and food culture. So today is going to be a slightly unusual show because we're calling it Unplanned Meals, which doesn't mean that Carole doesn't have in mind what she's presenting tonight. It just means that she's emptied everything from her refrigerator and pantry that she plans to use on the counter and will be not making it up as it goes along, but you're going to see Carole unplugged. This is how she cooks every day when she gets home, and separate from using recipes. So I'm going to ask every one of you to go get either pencil and paper or get your computer or your notes, whatever, a notebook, and be prepared to write down the so-called recipes, the ingredients that Carole is going to be showing us. She's got some sauces prepared. She's got a couple of dishes prepared, but this is how she, and we realized I and also Jim, who's behind the camera, kind of eat every single day. So get your pen and paper, and in the meantime, I will make some other general announcements. It's June. And at the farmers markets in New York, I've seen greens and herbs and berries are out. So I just bought some strawberries and blueberries and raspberries and all kinds of carrots. And actually the herbs are pretty amazing right now. And a couple of announcements about some upcoming events. On June 24th, we have an in-person event, which is part 3 of our summer health series at the Belrose Library in Queens. Some of you who've been online for a while with us might notice that as we're leaving aspects of COVID behind, Plant Powered Metro is really trying to bring community together and have many more in-person events. We also have important online events. One of those online is a 4-part series, June 15th, July 2nd, July 9th, and 16th, an online series about nutrition for healthy moms and families. And those of you with or without children, I highly recommend this. Some of these recipes, it's not just a cooking show, it's about familial health in general, but a lot of these recipes are kind of fun, easier recipes as you might expect for children. We have a in-person event in a plant-powered potluck out in Long Island in South Setauket, which is right near Port Jeff, Long Island. July 10th, a really important and fun online class called Nourish Your Mind with Dr. Dean Ornish, I believe, and this is about nutrition and Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Ornish has just published a groundbreaking study that he's been doing for several years now about the positive influence of whole food plant-based nutrition in, I don't know about reversing Alzheimer's, but certainly slowing the pace of Alzheimer's and certainly in preventing Alzheimer's. Okay, June 16th, I'm going to hurry up because I know Carole has an ambitious show in mind. July 16th, in person, we've got a dinner social in Kips Bay in New York City. July 22nd, in person, a barbecue dinner in Astoria. And July 17th, in person, a shop with the dock in Jamaica, Queens. Some of you, again, may or may not know, Plant Powered Metro tries to include all the different boroughs in Manhattan. And this is our lineup for the next month. And the good news is, due to popular demand, we're also adding one more cooking show with Chef Carole in July, Sunday, July 28th, same place, same time. And then we'll be taking off the month of August, and we'll resume with the cooking show in September through the end of the year. So that's a quick lineup. Please go to the website. Please check out all the details. And I think we're just about to go to Carole.
Wendy, yay! Wow, that was a marathon of just events.
It was a marathon, and I didn't mention the fun facts about eggplant, Carole. So when you're ready, I will mention
my
the
God.
fun
Well,
facts
that
about
will be second. So when I'm doing a little cleanup between one dish and the next, I'll tell you eggplant fact. Okay?
that.
You say I'll cue you to do the eggplant fact.
Sounds good.
So today is like what Wendy said, the way that I cook all the time, which is kind of unplanned meals. It's not to say that I don't follow recipes. It's just that 90% of the time I'm in a hurry and I just want to eat. But I want to say it does require a little work, and work meaning that you do have to shop and you do have to prepare things ahead of time so that when you don't want to slave away at the stove or slave away at the counter, you're having all the things there for you. And I think that I've mentioned this so many times that when I left the olive oil world, meaning that I wasn't using olive oil on everything, I felt that I needed to have a dressing all the time in the refrigerator. Well, at least one dressing that was made without any oil. And now I've kind of increased recently because it is summertime, and I seem to have 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 different dressings going. And I make just little bits. I don't make a ton of anything for the dressings because I like having variety. So today I'm going to walk you through, we're going to first set ourselves up with what I'm calling dressings. But I don't want you to get hung up in the word dressings because we think of only green salad and that goes with dressing. But I'm going to cook some vegetables with dressing and you're going to see how we use that. And we're going to use some condiments, which are like pickled onions or maybe sun-dried tomatoes. Those are like a paste of sun-dried tomatoes. Those are like condiments. They're little bitty things that just kind of, I call it like a game changer. You add a little bit of something and it's a wow. And so those are usually just condiments. So we're going to try to do a lot of things, but before we start, what we're going to start is we're going to make a delicious balsamic dressing, and we're going to make also just a regular tahini ginger dressing. And I think it's nice to have that tahini ginger because that can go over vegetables, it can go over noodles, it can go over lettuces, but it's a little bit of a change up. And then if we have time, we're also going to make 11 herb dressing. But let's get going. So, and all these things are nut free and they're machine free. So I think that's kind of important because, again, when you're in a hurry, you don't have time to do those things. So again, grab your paper and pencil because we didn't provide any recipes because once you learn these dressings, you'll just have them memorized. So we need a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. And you can use any kind of balsamic vinegar. I have the kind of higher end balsamic here that is made literally by Napa Valley. And it's called the Grand Reserve. And it's very thick, much like molasses, a little bit thicker than normal, but you can use any kind of balsamic vinegar. And as you know, there are different grades and different qualities of balsamic, and having a really good one is kind of a treat. Okay, so I'm using a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar, which we've got measured in this cup. And this again is what I've used, the Napa Valley balsamic vinegar. I'm gonna put that aside for now. And we need to have 2 tablespoons of mustard. And I've actually got I have 3 kinds of mustards in my fridge. Today I only took out 2. I have the organic stone ground mustard that has no salt. I actually have the organic stone ground mustard that has some salt in it, because this kind with no salt, I have to order online. So I kind of am a little bit precious with it. I try not to use it up. And this is going to be used for something else later. And today I'm just going to use Dijon mustard that is literally from Trader Joe's. And we need 2 tablespoons. And you might think, wow, that is a lot of mustard. But that is really going to give the tang, and it's also going to give super, super, super creamy. And I'm measuring this off in a 2 tablespoon measure. And that's just going to go right into our quarter cup like that. Simple, right? And then we're going to use 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And later we'll have to squeeze some lemons, but I often have so many lemons that I often just attack them and just squeeze so many and make a big jar full of lemon juice. So here is our lemon juice, 1 tablespoon. Okay, so what have we done thus far? We've done a quarter cup of balsamic, we've done 2 tablespoons of mustard, and we've done 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And all that is left is 1 clove of garlic. Now, you can chop this up with a knife. I tend to like the dressing with the garlic really minced fine. And you could do that with a knife, but I get this microplane. This used to be for my Parmesan cheese years and years ago. And I find it works really good with the garlic and the ginger. So it does remind me of my old days of eating Parmesan cheese. And it grinds it up almost to a pulverizes. And I'm getting that in there. And there's always just a little piece left. And I throw it in there. Now, you don't want to really eat that piece of garlic when you're eating your salad or cooking. But it's, you just pull it out. I figured, why throw it away? It can just go right into the dressing. It's just a little teeny piece that I couldn't grate. And this is your dressing. Okay, this is it. Done. Okay, minutes, seconds. I will just be redundant here and repeat 100 times for you. Okay, this is again quarter cup of balsamic, 2 tablespoons of mustard, 1 garlic clove, and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And what I do is I get a jar and then I just give it a good shaking. And about, I would say it depends on how much salad or what you're cooking, what you're making, but there's about 2 tablespoons per serving. And this is it, done. And it's super, I can't show you this till we maybe start to coat things. But you see how it coats the spatula? It's very emulsified. And it's very, you would never know that this doesn't have any kind of fat in it or even any kind of oil in it. And I find it to be just super delicious. And
Oh, we seem to have lost Carole. Okay. We've lost Carole.
sometimes,
Oh,
no, I'm back.
oh,
I'm back.
you're not back. There you are.
I'm
Okay. Very good.
I'm back. You know, I have a new phone, Wendy. I think I mentioned to you and Jim, and I put do not disturb on so the phone wouldn't ring. But I guess I didn't do it right. It should be the same, but I don't know. It just so a phone call came in, and I had to get rid of it. So excuse me. But what I was saying about the dressing is that it is very much looks like it's very looks emulsified and it's very delicious. So that's our dressing. Does anyone have any questions about this dressing? And there are many kinds of balsamic dressings to make, but why do I like this one so much? It's just fast and easy, and you don't need a blender because you're not grinding any walnuts or grinding any peanut butter, grinding anything. It's just done. So I'm just putting this off to the side because step 1 is done. Now we're going to move on to our next dressing, and I thought I had a little jar for it. Oh, here it is, a tiny little jar right here. And this dressing is going to be a tahini ginger dressing. And this is going to start out with a little bit of fat, and the fat is going to be tahini. Okay, and you can use any kind of tahini that you like. I like, this is tahini that's called Soom, Soom. That's a good brand. It's organic. And it tends to stay stirred. I think it's the thing that I like the most about it. It's definitely organic and it's good. So we are going to take a quarter cup, and I realize I don't have my quarter cup out. Let me just take them out. I could use the 2 tablespoon measure 2 times. So here we are. We're going to take a quarter cup. And this makes quite a bit because a quarter cup of fat is a lot, right? So I'm going to get the lid on this. And again, this is just a little tiny tahini, a little jar of it. And let me wash. I love, I get really hooked onto certain things. And I love this purple spatula because it's very narrow and small, and I seem to want to always have it at hand. So we're going to put the quarter cup of tahini right into my little jar. I might have not chosen the right size jar, but we'll see about that. And then, so that's a quarter cup. And then we need the same amount of water. And I can see that I'm in trouble here. I did not pick a good jar. Because I have so many dressings in the refrigerator right now that I don't have a lot of little jars. But let's just do it in here. We'll do it right into the measuring cup. So we need a quarter cup of water. Okay, so the same amount of tahini, a quarter cup of tahini, quarter cup of water. So let's just take this tahini that I just put in the jar and put it right into here. Okay, and then and then we need 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. So we'll do that right here. 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon. And I will repeat all this again. And then we need 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I have just about enough here. Just enough. And everyone knows that lemon, and I have a teeny bit left over, so I'm going to do it's going to be super full. Okay, that is good. I think this is going to be the jar we're going to put it in. We're going to jump ship with this little jar. We're not good, that little tiny jar. This is perfect now that it's empty. It's my lemon jar. And then, of course, I said it's a ginger tahini dressing. So we need ginger, and we need the fresh ginger. Now, often I do peel the ginger, and there are various ways of peeling it. You can peel it with a peeler. You can peel it with the back of a spoon. You can peel it with the back of a measuring spoon. But when I'm in a hurry, to tell you the truth, honestly, see, you peel towards you and the skin just comes off, okay? You just peel towards you and you kind of have to dig it in, but the skin will come off. But I would tell you that if you wash this and once you bring it home or, you wash it, you don't really necessarily have to take the skin off. There are many, many times that I don't take the skin off. So we need 1 full tablespoon of ginger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same tool that I use, the microplane, and I'm just going to grate it. And it's about 1 inch probably of ginger that you need. That would be rendering almost enough ginger. And it's really fine. And I'm just going to, again, sometimes I do these things ahead. Sometimes I keep a ramekin in the refrigerator. I've already grated ginger. I think we need just a little bit more. This piece is going to fall off, the little knobby part. And I do love putting any extra ginger or any ginger skin. I love saving that for hot water and making a nice hot cup of tea with ginger and lemon. So I try not to throw the skin out when I do it. Okay, I think that we are in business here. Okay, that's very, very finely grated. And oops, that's my wrong measuring spoon. This is a tablespoon. And we're a little shy here. I could do just a little more, but I think it's okay. I do think we could just do a teeny bit more. See if I can use this little knobby piece up. Wendy, are we having any questions so far? Oh, I guess
So far, sorry, I was muted. So far, so good. It's all very clear, very clean, and I'm posting when I can the recipe as you're talking. So.
Oh, that's awesome, Wendy, that you're doing that. Thank you for doing that. Again, I'm going to repeat right now so everybody knows what's happening here. We have a quarter cup of tahini, a quarter cup of water, Okay, equal amounts. And then we have 1 tablespoon of soy, 1 tablespoon of ginger, and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. That is it. Okay, I mixed it up a little bit. It's just exactly fitting into this jar that I planned for. And of course, I will label and date these things before I go putting them in the fridge. And I give it a good shake. And if needed, if for some reason, tahini can be thick and thin and not stirred up, you always want to stir it before you use it. But if you find that the dressing that you're making, the sauce is too thick, just add a little more water or a little more lemon juice. But this is it. Done. It is done. And oh my God, it's so yummy. It would be delicious in a minute on any kind of noodles. So I think that, were you able to get that one written down, Wendy, already? I don't know. But again, quarter cup tahini, quarter cup water, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1 tablespoon of soy, and 1 tablespoon of fresh ginger.
I did. And we do, Carol, have a question which I can answer if you're doing things, but the question is salt in the soy sauce? And the answer is yes. Soy sauce is very salty, but as Carol knows, and she might talk on it, you can also get low sodium tamari, which
yes, and that is what I used, Wendy. Mm-hmm. Thank you for answering. That is exactly. I'm sorry I called it soy. It's definitely tamari. I have the 28% less salt, less sodium. And then for those of you who don't want to have that, you could use the coconut aminos, and that would be a fine substitute for the soy. No problem. Just swap it out. So if you're not wanting to have any, and this is 0. Let me read the little ingredients. Well, this does have a little bit of sodium in it for sure, but it has no soy. So that is coconut aminos, which I have right here on my counter.
And just for the record,
yes.
Carol, sorry to interrupt, but the coconut aminos, you have to be careful because they do also have sodium, but the labeling is a little different than the labels on the low sodium soy sauce. So check the label because it looks like it's less sodium, but it may not be.
And it says here on this particular one, this is Nutivia brand, and it says less sodium. It says less sodium than the leading brands. Well, they're just advertising here. Yeah. But do check your labels all the time. That's very important. I think we'll make one more dressing and then we'll be done. But I just really like sharing all these things with you so very much. So the next dressing is going to be just a plain lemon herb dressing. And I'm trying to take off the sticker here. I think I got that. I don't know where I'm going with the sticker. I'm putting it in my, and I think I've mentioned this before, that I try, don't do it always. I'm not good at it always. But before I go cracking open a lemon, I try to give it a little bit, get the zest off. Because this is added flavor for salad, for anything that we do. We can put it in our vegetables when we're cooking. We can put it in our rice or our grains. I like sprinkling it on a salad. And if you're not going to use it right away, I often just zest a lemon, which I'm doing here with a microplane. And if I don't use it right away, I just put it on a plate. A small plate that I have in, and I just literally pile it on during the week, and it just starts to dry out. I literally leave it on the counter and just leave it and it will dry out. And then you can store it in a jar if you have an excessive amount. But dried lemon zest is as good as fresh lemon zest. So that way you don't lose that skin. I do try to buy the organic lemons, and then you want to wash it off carefully, and that's that. Right now, what we need to do to make this, and while we're, and then we're going to start making our dishes, but I'm trying to arm us with these dressings, is we need to have a quarter cup of lemon juice. And usually if the lemon is strong, if it's, big and juicy, it will render a quarter cup exactly. But if it's not so juicy, you might need another lemon. But let's just say, let's hope that this lemon is juicy enough. And I save these because I have some copper pots, and copper pots get cleaned with lemon. I use this and kosher salt, and it cleans my pots and makes them super shiny all over again. I'm gonna get, just want to get my little spatula, my very favorite one, washed here and get our things that we need. Okay, so we have, and we need a quarter cup, right? A quarter cup, and I want to just measure that out. I think we have just exactly. That lemon looked juicy to me, and I think that's what we have. Okay, so let's just see what we have here. And it is just a hair shy of lemon juice, just a hair. We could cut open another lemon. We won't zest that lemon because that takes a little bit of time, but we'll just cut open another lemon and we'll squeeze a half of it. That way we have our quarter cup. I'm always having lemons on the counter. Like I feel like it's something that I'm all the time opening a lemon, cutting an open lemon juice. Okay, now we're gonna have our exact quarter cup. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna save this and we'll put this little juicer. I'm not sure if we need that again. So what is gonna go in here? We have a quarter cup of lemon juice. We're going to get 2 tablespoons of water. So I actually have some water here. Okay, so that's gonna take down a little bit of the acidity, the water. And then we're gonna use 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, which I did get out. It's right here, 1 tablespoon. And always give it a shake. If you're buying this yummy apple cider vinegar and all the sediments are at the bottom, so you do have to give it a good shaking before you go pouring it out. And I buy the big bottle because I feel like apple cider vinegar is something I use a lot of. So we need 1 tablespoon. So we have lemon juice and apple cider vinegar. And now we need to have some spices. So we're going to have 1 teaspoon, and I need to get the teaspoon out. And you could use fresh herbs here. This is all up to you. If you want to use fresh herbs, you could blend it up, chop them up, whatever you want. But again, I'm trying to make this kind of a quick thing. We need 1 tablespoon of basil. You could use oregano or thyme, either one. You could use all 3. You could use Italian spices if you want. But I'm just doing today, I'm doing thyme and basil, 2 things. And then we need to have our 1 clove of garlic. Again, the same method that I just used. And of course I have ginger all over my microplane. So I have to get rid of that. And it's got little strings in it, so it's kind of a little bit hard to wash, but there you go. And this is a simple vinaigrette. And it's really quite delicious, actually. And it has no mustard in it, believe it or not. And let's get rid of our mustard. You're welcome to put a little mustard in it, but it actually doesn't need it. Okay, so here I'm just grating the garlic clove, and there's just a teeny bit left. I'll give it a good hitting. So that's very, very minced. Again, if you don't have a microplane or a grater, you don't want to dirty anything, just give it a good chopping. Okay, and this is your vinaigrette. Now it doesn't look impressive, but once you get it on a salad or you marinate some eggplant, it can be used for many different things. So I will repeat it for you in case you weren't writing down quickly, but it's 1/4 cup of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of water, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of oregano or thyme, and 1 teaspoon of dried herbs, basically. It could be Italian seasonings, or it could be a mixture of oregano, thyme, and basil. Whatever you want, it can be those things. And I have a little jar here. I'm just gonna get it out of this measuring cup. I don't have the lid to this really wonderful jar anymore, but it's good. It's all mixed up, and we'll just keep it here because we're gonna use it. So it's all mixed up. we'll give it a stir. We'll keep a spatula in it so we remember that it needs stirring. And that is our dressings, three
Carol,
dressings in
yep.
basically 10 minutes. I
Quick,
hear you.
quick question, which both Carol and I caught. When you were making the recipe, you said it was 1 tablespoon of basil, but
Oh, yeah, in a
you said
teaspoon,
one teaspoon.
teaspoon.
And so
Teaspoon.
1 teaspoon. Now, if you were to combine, would you do a teaspoon of basil, teaspoon of thyme, teaspoon of oregano, or in
Yes,
other words, three?
that's what I do. It's technically it's a teaspoon of every kind of herb you want, basically.
Got it.
And I would either do 2 or 3 herbs. It's up to you if you do thyme, oregano, thyme, basil. You could do all three. It might be a lot of seasoning, but at least two. But I'll say 2 to 3 teaspoons of dried herbs. And if you don't want to get each individual one, just grab your Italian seasoning and do like 2 teaspoons of that, and that should be good.
Great. Okay.
And then, of course, you have to put a little pepper in it. I didn't mention that. And I'm just going to get some pepper from the grinding pepper and just put that right into, well, I'm going to grind it here on the counter, right here. And then I'm going to put it in. But I often put the pepper right onto the salad anyway, so it's not like a loss. But you do want to put some pepper in. And that's it. That's your dressing. So in that particular dressing, there is no mustard. But if you feel really committed to putting some kind of creamy something in it, you could definitely put a little mustard in. It's not going to hurt, but it's got lemon juice and apple cider, so it's got that real tang to it. So we are ready to go now. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands that we just made 3 dressings I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, maybe a few minutes more because I repeat myself a lot. But I just want you to understand that we've done 3 dressings. So that's really something great to have in your cabinet, in your refrigerator, I mean, so that you're ready to go, whether it's salads or cooking. So I think the first thing that we're going to make, and I kind of made a little sketch of things, what we're going to do. And we're going to have, you can see I've taken out everything from my fridge. We have broccolini. We have regular broccoli. I have some Brussels sprouts. I actually also have some romesco, which is, we talk about this sometimes in the fall because it's definitely a fall, more like September, October. But lately, especially here where I'm living in New Mexico now, I'm seeing it almost all year round, which is unusual. It is a product of Italy. It looks like a cauliflower and a broccoli together. I love it for its creaminess. And when you make little florets, I've left it whole here on purpose. We're not going to use a lot of it. But and many of you have seen me use this vegetable, and we'll use it later for the polenta. But each little floret looks like a Christmas tree because it's very pointy. And I encourage all of you to try new vegetables. If you're stuck on broccoli, I'm stuck on broccoli all the time. I don't want to say you're stuck on broccoli. I'm stuck on broccoli all the time. And I eat a lot of cauliflower. So when I see the romesco, I think, oh my gosh, I have to have that romesco. So I really love it, romesco, and it's very delicious. And in New York, I used to only see it in the fall, but again, I'm starting to see it in the summer now too, where I live. But we're getting our pan hot, and we're gonna make some mushrooms. And I've prepped nothing, so you all are gonna have to be a little bit patient with me, in the sense that we're gonna just quickly, and I have to find my little paring knife if I can find it buried in the drawer here. I love shiitake mushrooms. There's such a variety of mushrooms that it's good for you to try lion's mane, and there's the cremini and the button mushrooms that we're all familiar with. The shiitake mushrooms have a stem, and you do want to cut the stem off. It's not something that we usually eat. What do I do with it? I cut it up and it goes into the doggy's food. Uh, what else could you do with it? You could put it into stock. I have a lot of cremini mushrooms here as well, but I'm trying to grab the shiitake mushrooms because they're so delicious and I love them so. And again, I'm just taking their little stems off, but I'm not going to throw them away. And we're going to have a bunch of just shiitake mushrooms in this dish, and we're going to cut them up. And I'm just going to slice them up really kind of quickly. I'm actually stacking a bunch on top of each other because once they don't have their stem, you can just stack a bunch on top and just make them all like cut 3 at a time so that they're all sliced. And I'm not going to make a ton of food because everything is, we're just going to make like one little serving as if I'm cooking for myself. But of course, you'll multiply things as needed. And again, it's just a mushrooms, and we're going to have greens, and we're going to have it with barley. Okay, and I'm cutting some regular cremini mushrooms. And I want to remind you that you don't really want to wash any mushrooms under the water. The water, mushrooms are very absorbent, and if you wash them, they're just going to absorb more water. You want to just take a paper towel and wipe off the dirt. That's all you want to do is, and sometimes there is no dirt. So sometimes you don't even have to worry about it. The other thing so we're gonna have mushrooms. So I've just cut a bunch of mushrooms. Hopefully you can see that. I'll move the eggplant for now so that you can see it. And then we're gonna have greens, and it can be any kind of greens you want, okay? I have an abundant amount of spinach, an abundant amount, because there's a gentleman at the farmer's market here where I live who grows this kind of spinach that has red stems. Can you all see how beautiful that is? So he only has it the very first few weeks, and he runs out of it very fast. And he knows that I love it. In fact, the first week of our farmer's market, he literally saw me walking. He doesn't know my name. And he said, "Hey, I've got the red stem spinach that you like." He remembers this from last year and the year before. It's pretty incredible. So what he did was the last of the spinach he had last week, he said, "If you buy a bag, I'm just going to give you a bag." And I'm like, okay. So I have a ton. So they're kind of little, and this has red stems, and much like kind of chard or beet greens, when you have the red, it kind of it kind of leaks out a little redness. Okay, now I'm just cutting up a bunch of greens so that I don't think we need them all. And I'm just getting rid of where they were growing in the ground. And again, we're going to have, you can have this on, we're going to make polenta as the next dish. But this time I've been eating barley actually quite often lately. And why have I been eating barley? Because I find it to be really delicious. And although it is a wheat, and that might affect some of you that are gluten-free, there are substitutes for barley, but it is a grain, and it's shaped similar to a piece of rice, and I find it to be so flavorful. And most of us only know barley in mushroom barley soup, but it is something that you can eat, and I've been eating it as a side. And right before the program started, we kind of like went through a bunch of alternatives in case you're gluten-free, so that you can figure out, you could have millet if you want, or amaranth, or quinoa. But again, I'm trying to show you some things today that aren't always what I call the usual suspects. So this pan is very hot now. And I'm not bothering to put any kind of garlic or anything because we're going to use our ginger sesame dressing, and that already has great flavor. So we don't have to saute any garlic. One of the condiments that I am going to use many times probably today, because I love it very much, is the easy pickle onions that we made last month. I mean, not last week, but last month. We made pickled onions for our burgers that we had. And if you don't know the recipe or you want to see how to do it, there are recordings on Plant Powered Metro YouTube channel, and you can go back to last month and find how to make it. But I end up making just a jar full of them. I eat them for everything. And what is it? You slice up a red onion very quickly. You slice it up very thin. And then I boil water and I put the onions in a colander and I pour hot water on them. What does that do? It just softens them. It just softens them. And then I put all the onions in this jar, in this little jam jar that I have. And what proportion of liquid? I put in 1/3 cup of rice wine vinegar, the kind with no sugar in it, and 1 cup of water. So 1/3. So 1/3 to 1/3. So 1/3 vinegar, 1/3 water. Now I use rice wine vinegar. You could use red. You could use the white vinegar for pickling. You don't need the salt. You don't even have to do the water back over the onions. It's just that I prefer the onions to be nice and soft. So, and then you can put any kind of flavorings you want. I usually just put a couple bay leaves and peppercorns. You could put garlic if you want. You could put jalapenos. You could put fennel fronds. There's so many different things that you could add to your pickling flavor. But no matter what, it's the same water to vinegar recipe proportion. And I have figured out in my little jar that 1/3 cup of vinegar to 1/3 cup water fits perfectly in the little jar. And the onions get very pink the longer they sit. So I still have a little left over. I made a new jar this morning and I still have a little left over. And we're going to use onions with this. So we're going to get sauteing right now. And we're going to get our mushrooms going. Now I'm looking at the amount of mushrooms, and we probably could use even more, but we'll just go with this particular amount for now. Now, there's nothing in this pan, and we are going to need to add a little bit of water throughout, or broth, because we don't want things to stick, but we need things to cook, okay? And again, this is, you're not adding oil, you're adding water or broth, and you're going to start to saute them, okay? And this is on relatively, I'm on an electric burner right now, but I cook mostly on medium heat. But you do want to seal in those mushroom juices. You want it on high. And I'm going to just, again, add a little water. I'm going to not move them around too much because I do want them to start to get brown. And mushrooms do contain a lot of water, so they will release their own juices. So eventually it won't have to keep adding water. Again, sometimes I do even more mushrooms, but for now we're making just one small serving and that will be good. And we're going to use the pickled onions, and then we're going to use all these greens. And at the end, we're just going to put a little bit of this dressing and maybe add a little bit of water because the pan will be very hot and the dressing will kind of coagulate. We'll just like immediately get all kind of stuck, and you want to just maybe have it a little bit. I don't want it runny. I just want it to coat all the vegetables. Okay, and again, I probably would have maybe two. You could have kale, you could have chard, you could have other vegetables, you could have Brussels sprouts, broccoli. But I like it simple. And I do this meal often instead of with barley. I do it with the French lentils, and I love that. I like when it's a little bit crunchy. and so the barley is a little bit crunchy, just a little bit. The lentils can be a little bit like a bite to it. And today we're going to actually, later when we have salad, we're going to use mung beans. And mung beans would be delicious in here. And I'm not going to talk about mung beans right now because we're going to talk about them later. But any kind of little added bean or grain would be ideal. Okay, so this is cooking. Again, I have nothing in here, no garlic, no spices, and definitely starting to cook. And I pretty much, that is going to be it. I should get a serving plate for us. That would be good. I'm just going to get one serving plate, like a bowl. And our next thing that we make is polenta, but we're gonna talk about that in a few minutes. But I don't want to jump the gun because I'm so excited to be just cooking. It's like there's so much food on my counter right now that I'm just like, oh, it's a little overwhelming because I'm starving and I'm hungry and I'm cooking one portion which I could eat in a minute. But we're not going to eat. We're just going to try to get through all my intentions here of showing you quick meals. And I'm also going to try not to use the oven today, although I do want to very much roast some tomatoes and onions. But I know it's been very hot across the entire globe, and the East Coast is really having the heat. We had it a week and a half ago, 90 some degrees, but finally cooled down. And I know the East Coast is having very hot weather. So I'm trying not to put the oven on today, but I will probably mention to you the things that I'd like to do in the oven. But when it's this hot, you definitely don't want to be putting the oven on. And even having to have to stand over the stove, that's why we want to do something that's fairly quick. Wendy, this would be a perfect moment for questions if anybody had a question.
There are a couple of things that came up. Let me go back here. There was a comment and something I thought was very interesting. I was unaware of this that I thought would interest you too. Carol Klawonsky from Maryland, who hasn't missed a show yet. Thank you, Carol. Mentioned using Westbury no salt added mustard and ordering it online, but she says that the company making it was sold and that they discontinued that product. But there is a company called Organicville that makes a no salt added stone ground mustard that's available at Whole Foods and online. So I've noticed also I can't get Westbury here in New York, but it's good to know about Organicville. So that was just terrific.
And thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. Thank you.
And then to Michael, it doesn't matter if the mushrooms are organic or not organic. You just want to brush them to take the dirt off of them. And let me just see if there was another question here. Everything is seeming pretty straightforward, so we don't have a lot of questions at the moment. Let's see. I'm not.
The Westbury is sold at my store I'll have to look, but like I said, the no salt added was hard to find, so I kind of covet it. I don't use it as quickly because I covet it. But Carol, thank you so much for one, never missing the show, and then two, I'm so happy that you tell us that the company's been bought out. It's very hard to find no salt mustard. It's a hard thing.
Carol just said you're very welcome. So gracious. And Diane is asking, what dressing are you using with these sauteed mushrooms and greens?
Oh, I'm gonna use the tahini ginger dressing that we just made.
Yeah.
Now that could also be used on whole wheat noodles or ramen. You could make a nice Asian dish, whether it's cold noodles, hot noodles. You could have it over tofu and vegetables. Again, I'm just trying to show you versatile things. And again, it's very important to be having these things in your refrigerator already done. And you saw my point is that you didn't need a fancy machine to make it. And you could make it in less than 5 minutes. Sometimes before I go to work and I literally wake up at 4 in the morning and I leave the house at 4:30. Sometimes I'm out of balsamic and I need to have dressing at work for my salad. And I literally will make that balsamic dressing half in my sleep because I'll remember, it's 2 tablespoons. And I just make it and then I feel like I put it in my bag and I'm ready to go. So that's the kind of thing you want. You want to be feeling like you're armed, because if you're armed, then you're ready for anything, right? Sometimes I'm at work and I'm like, oh my God, I have a salad but no dressing. What do I do? Well, I kind of make it up. I'll just have balsamic or I'll just have lemon juice. But it really is nice to have a dressing. Okay, these mushrooms are done and I'm putting in the greens. Okay, I'm putting in the greens and this is this beautiful spinach. I have so much of it that I'll probably but the greens all disappear down. Now again, normally, often when I first started making this particular dish, I would now put in the French lentils, the little tiny French lentils. Again, mung beans would be delicious. You could put red lentils if you want. But today we're going to put barley because I have really been liking barley. And if someone doesn't know how to cook barley, it's not quite a 1-to-1 ratio like rice is and often many other grains. It's actually it's like 1 cup of barley. You would need 3 cups of water. Okay, so today I only cooked a half a cup of barley, and I did 1.5 cups of water. And it cooks pretty fast, even faster than rice, I would say. Okay, and then I like putting in the barley. I like mixing it in right now. Okay, so the greens have wilted. I'm putting in the barley as we speak. How much barley? Just enough to kind of look like it's running all the way through. Okay, and then the greens, and we can't forget, now you could put scallions, you could put leeks, you could put white onions when you're cooking the mushrooms, right? But I have these pickled onions, and it's pink. They're beautiful, and the pink looks beautiful. And you know that I'm always talking about eating with your eyes, right? We eat the rainbow, but I like seeing the rainbow on my plate. I'm just getting rid of this so we have a room to plate something. And we're just going to plate this, and we're going to make sure that everything's moving around. It's a little tiny bit dry in here, so I'm going to add just a little bit water just to make sure. And then I'm going to carefully, I don't want to pour too much dressing. So I'm just going to literally pour, this is a 1.5 tablespoons. So I'm just going to do it's going to be almost 2 tablespoons because you really don't need a lot. It's got tahini in it. That means it's high in, has fat, has calories. And I have a little bit of water in there. So everything's moving around nicely. And if you want, you could put a couple turns of black pepper if you want, right? And Wendy and I both have this pan, and I find that it's sometimes hard to get things out of here. But it's a pan that I love cooking in. When I moved here, Wendy knew that I loved her pan, and now I feel like I have part of her in my kitchen all the time because this sits on my. But this is what this looks like, okay? And this is really a whole meal in itself, okay? You can see that's very beautiful. I think you can see. I'm going to put this pan on the back burner somewhere here just to get it out of the way. It's very hot. And we basically have our dish here. Do you see? So barley, spinach, mushrooms. Now, usually I taste things. Well, usually I taste things before I take them off the burner. But this time I'm not. Why? Because I've been making this so much lately. But it's kind of a given that it's going to be delicious. And you already know the dressing is delicious. So that is what we have.
Absolutely.
That is a meal on itself. Okay?
Delicious. And does it matter if you put the dressing on afterwards, or do you like it better when it's heated up?
I like warming it up, Wendy. I like putting it in the pan, but I do add a little bit of water at the same time, or make sure there's a little bit of water at the bottom of the pan. You could put lemon juice too if you wanted it to be zingy. And we could also, speaking of lemon, if we wanted to just make it a little prettier, we could just put a little bit of lemon zest and that will actually taste very delicious and actually makes the dish even more beautiful. And that's gonna make it taste very super, like
So,
boom, like the freshness is right in front of your mouth, right in front of your tongue.
and just for
So
the record, for some of the newbies or even the people who are have been following this for a while, this dish obviously has your greens, your beans, your grains, a little bit of fat that's in the dressing, which is where it's recommended. You're mixing your fat with the greens. So this is it. This is how we eat. How, you know, a typical everyday fast. This is fast food for plant-based eaters.
yes, this is, and I'm not kidding you. Like I finished this and I'm full because, and I had the grains, everything. Again, this is, maybe I would have had a little bit more for one person, but it is just right for one. And so if there's two or three of you, you're just gonna have to multiply it up. But again, you could use any kind of greens you want. Mixture of mushrooms I recommend always. And then we have the grain, and you could use any kind of grain. And then you could use any kind of onions you want, regular white onions. You could saute red onions. Today I used the pickled onions because they just, they add a different flavor, and they're pink and they look really pretty with the pink stems. So I'm going to just do a very, very quick wash up, and then we're moving on to our very next thing. And I think we're doing okay with time, although I have a lot of things to show you still. So I'm going to try to use the back of the stove to cook some things because we only have one burner close up. But I think it's really important to know that summer is about tomatoes and eggplant and corn. And we're just, I know in New York, you probably are starting to be in the height of everything. Wendy definitely mentioned the berries, but you're probably starting to see the corn, the eggplant. Here it's a little early for me. We're a little bit behind in our farming and gardening and all that. But I do want to show you an eggplant today because and let me get the pan, get it hot. And I'm a little excited because this is my new pan, everyone. And this is an Ozeri pan. And when I bought an Ozeri pan, I honestly only bought a 7-inch one because I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with the pan and that it was going to cook everything I needed it to cook, whether it was crepes or pancakes or sauteing. And now I take out my 7-inch pan, and literally the dog runs in and she sits at the oven stove and she thinks that I'm making her meal because that's primarily what I do in that 7-inch pan now is cook vegetables for her. And she thinks that's our pan. But just recently I saw on Wayfair an 11-inch pan for 70% off. So I was so excited to have 70% off. So to have a gigantic pan, it's my first time using it. I've had it for weeks, everyone, weeks, and I haven't used it. And I'm so excited about having it. And it's going to be the future of so many yummy things. And it's been a long time since I haven't had a big 11-inch pan that I love like that. I have other big pans, but they're not non-stick like this one. So we're going to cook our eggplant in there. And often I start the eggplant in here and I put it in the oven. But I think today, because I'm trying not to use the oven, we're going to try to cook everything in the pan. And we're also going to make polenta. So we should probably do two things at once. What I'm going to do, two things at once, and then we're going to switch. We're going to move the eggplant to the back, and we're going to bring this to the front. So we're going to get the polenta going, and I'm going to get 1 cup of water just boiling in the back. Maybe even one, let's do 1.5, because it might boil for a few minutes before I get back to it, and we'll lose some of that water. So I'm just going to put it on low, the water. So ideally, polenta is a 4-to-1 ratio, meaning you would have 4 cups of water to 1 cup. but I'm just going to make about a quarter cup of polenta, I think, a quarter cup. And then, so I did a little more than a cup of water, because I think some of it's going to boil away while we're making the eggplant. Now, eggplant is one of those vegetables that are always, always laden and just heavy, cooked in oil. And people that don't know how to cook it always drench it. It's like a sponge, and it just people pour oil and more oil. And if you get, I don't know, capanata or the things that are made with eggplant, it always tastes so oily. So it's a vegetable that I've somewhat struggled with at the beginning, and how do I cook it without the oil? Now, when I used to cook it, I would slice it and I would lightly coat it with oil. Then I started lightly coating it with aquafaba. And then I sometimes coat it in a little bit of soy sauce. But I recently figured out this was my best method for cooking it. And often when I make ratatouille, I'll just cut it up and you have a tomato sauce going, and with the zucchini, and I just cube the eggplant and put in the eggplant right directly into the sauce. But today we're going to do something a little bit different that I recently discovered. So I'm going to take off the skin because I have a sticker there. And often I do take a peeler. I'll show you what I do. I like to have some skin and not all skin. So often I do this. I just give it, oh, there's a funny part there. There's a little brown part, but I often just give it a striped effect. So I have a little skin and not all skin. And this is going to immediately go into the compost. And what we want to do is just slice it. And Wendy, I'm going to give you your chance in a few seconds to tell us all about your little tidbit on eggplant. Now, this could go right into the pan. So I've sliced it like a half an inch thick. This big piece of eggplant, you could use Italian eggplant if you want. This is just a regular globe eggplant. Eggplant is considered to be a fruit. It has seeds. It also, sometimes people often want to soak it in salt. Even when I ate salt, I never soaked it in salt. They say that it's bitter and the salt gets rid of it, but I don't bother. I do like to make it a decorative pattern. You could immediately put it into your pan here, but what do? I just cut it at angles and then make little diamonds. Okay, and I'm not cutting it all the way, and I know that you can't see this. It's impossible to see, but I've made little diamonds, and I've not cut all the way through, and I just do that so that the flavor, whatever I'm going to marinate it in, gets seeps into the inside, okay? And so I'm just, again, cutting at angle, and then I go the other way at the angle, making nice harlequin diamonds. And if you had a grill, oops, I just went the wrong way. If you had a grill, this would be really pretty because you would be able to see. But we're probably never going to see these beautiful diamonds. So then I put them, and it can be face down, face up. It doesn't matter. Hello, new pan. How are you? Okay. And we're going to put water. We're going to put a little water, and we're going to keep water. And basically, we're doing just like what we would do if we were sauteing onions or sauteing greens. We're kind of steaming it with a little bit of water, but we're really, I would really call this sauteing. And I usually do this until I can prick the eggplant with a fork and know that it's soft. So right now it's really firm, and as it cooks, it will start to get soft, and eventually I flip them over. Now, normally after I flip them over and they're soft with a fork, I put them on a piece of parchment paper and I put them directly into the oven. And I put them in a hot oven and I let them get really brown. But I don't think we're going to try to do that because I do have the oven on. It's not so hot where I am here, but I'm going to stay away from the oven just in the sake that it's hot summer and maybe we can just get away with not turning the oven on. And Another thing that I would do when I put it into the oven is I would take a bunch of cherry tomatoes. I wouldn't even cut them up, and I would just put them in the oven too, 400 degrees, and I would just roast the tomatoes until they start to collapse onto themselves. And there's nothing like roasted tomatoes. I find them to be spectacularly delicious. So we're doing that. We have to get the water boiling for the polenta, and I'm going to get the polenta out. I actually realized that I didn't get it out, and you can see my cabinet is full. I have to get it out. And polenta is a coarse ground. It's a corn, and it's not cornmeal. It is polenta, and it's a coarser ground than what you would call corn flour or cornmeal, and it's very easily found. It's usually very bright yellow, and I find it to be quite delicious. You could eat it as porridge for breakfast. Don't think that it's just for a savory meal at nighttime or dinner time. Now, already this is starting to get, I need a fork. Our polenta bowl thing is in the way. And I'm going to try to flip. Now, they're just getting a teeny bit stuck, just a little bit. Again, I haven't used this pan, but it should be perfect. And where's my water? I went away with my water somewhere. You can't, oh, here it is, far away. And I'm going to put the water in again. And I'm going to turn this up because I actually want this to get brown. Okay. And eventually we're going to move this away so that we can make the polenta. And how are we going to make this? I'm just thinking how I most recently. Okay, so this is not going to, this could have a dressing. We could use the balsamic that we made. We could use the vinaigrette with herbs. But I happen to have what I'm going to call a condiment left over. It has a little fresh basil on top. But at the beginning of this week, I took sun-dried tomatoes and I soaked them. And then I pureed them in the Cuisinart, the food processor. And I just pulsed them so that they became like a puree, okay? Can everybody see? It's just a pureed sun-dried tomatoes. Now, this will, I'm calling this a condiment. It is literally sun-dried tomatoes. It has a little bit of fresh basil left over that I just threw on top, but it's literally water and sun-dried tomatoes pureed, okay? That's what I'm calling the condiment. Okay,
Carole?
and that's going to go, yes.
Quick question. When you, before you puree the sun-dried tomatoes, do you soak them in boiling water so that they soften? You don't put them directly into the food processor, do you?
You could do, it depends, Wendy, because how soft they are. And because it's just like dates, right? When you make date paste, sometimes you have those mushy medjool dates, and you know that you can add them right to the food processor and just pour the water, regular cold water, and they make the puree super fast.
Right.
And then sometimes you have hard as a rock dates, and you have to soak them. So sometimes sun-dried tomatoes are super fresh feeling, and sometimes they're super hard and rocky, like dried out. So if they were really hard as a rock, I would definitely put them in hot water and let them soak and reconstitute them so they puff up. So you're not having, if you put them right into the food processor, they're not going to break down as fast. And the water that you put in the food processor might go flying out because it's all like, and like it makes a funny noise when they're not getting all mushed together. But that's what I would suggest. But if they're really fresh, sometimes people have really fresh. When I was in New York, for some reason, the West Side Market had the best sun-dried tomatoes. I don't know why the West Side Market had the best sun-dried, but they did. And I would buy them in a big container. And it is hard to find them without salt, but it is possible to find them without salt. And it is something that sometimes they do put sugar on them. So it is something, something you want to read before you buy it. And often I'll buy some online because I'll just get the non-salt kind,
Exactly.
and hope that they haven't coated them in sugar. That's what I hope. Any other questions? But Wendy, thanks for asking that. That's a good question about the sun-dried tomatoes.
Yeah,
Now
no,
you could put, yeah, go
I've had
ahead.
to boil them because sometimes they're in my pantry so long that they're not as fresh. But so I was just double checking. You did have a question about what quantity of barley you used in the first recipe, but I'm guessing it was a half a cup to a cup of barley, and it's really up to
I don't
people's
know.
taste.
I did like 3 or 4 tablespoons. I just wanted it to be populated, but
Yeah,
so it wasn't overbearing and it wasn't under. I literally, I think I used 3 or 4 spoonfuls, which could be about a half a cup to maybe 2/3 of a cup. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not about how much. It's about just making it until this important part of cooking is to learn how to intuitively do things and
correct.
to figure out what you like. And maybe you're going to have more spinach than I had and less mushrooms, or maybe you're going to add something else. But really, the fun of it is just doing it quickly and
And
just knowing that you're having as you reiterated earlier, the grains, the vegetables, that we're having everything all at once.
I have another question about the material for the pans. And the Ozeri, if I'm not mistaken, is ceramic, isn't it?
Yes,
And then
correct.
the other pan, which was the one that we both use, I can't remember the name of it even. Um, that one is a
Cast iron.
cast iron pan.
And
So
it's a staub pan, Staub, that you and I
yes, Staub,
both use.
exactly. I just couldn't remember the name for a second. But the Staub pan is one that Carol and I both, I practically make everything in my Staub pan. And then this one looks like it's really good for those flat eggplants or, probably pancakes or things like that. So hope that answers your question. But this one's a
And
ceramic.
this is good for everything too. This pan. I'm switching this to the back, literally, and I have to watch it carefully because I don't want anything sticking. The eggplant's almost done. And like I said, normally I would put that in the 400-degree oven and I would roast it because it takes out a little bit of the moisture that we've cooked in, and it also browns it really, really nice. But I'm going to keep it on a very low light back here. Hopefully it's not going to fall apart. And because I very much want to make the polenta right in front of you. And we're almost going to be out of time before we know it. So I do have to speed along here. And you know what I'm going to do at the same time is I'm going to cook some some Romanesco. And we're going to throw it in with our eggplant because there's a little water in that pan and it's just going to cook because this is going to be part of our dish as well. And I don't want to dirty another pan. I hate dirtying another pan. So I'm just making little florets out of this right now. And we're going to put it with the eggplant in the back. And we're just going to, hopefully I'm going to make room for it somewhere. I don't know where. And I'm going to put a little water. Again, that's what's good about the sheet pan is if you're putting the whole sheet pan right into the refrigerator, into the sheet pan into the oven, you can pile on things. You can make a section of green beans and a section of Romanesco and a section of tomatoes and let all that cook, and then it's super great. So here we have we're making our polenta this very second, and I'm going to get a little whisk out. And we started with 1.5 cups of water. Now, I know everyone's going to be really wanting to know proportions here. And I told you it's usually 1 to 4. And it helps if I have the measuring cup. But you're going to add more water to this as it starts to cook. So I'm going to use 1/4 cup, as you can see. Again, this is going to be just a small amount, one time per portion, right? And you want to really stay with the polenta. Okay, you don't want to go wash clothes or go down the hall, fold your clothes or play with the kids or do whatever. You do not want distractions. polenta requires that you watch it. It's very much like risotto, where you watch it and stir it constantly. Um, Years ago, I worked at this restaurant and we sold so much soft polenta that I would make like a gigantic pot of polenta, and it would be boiling fast. And if you put your head near it, I would look in the pot and it would boil out at you practically. So you do want to keep it hot, but you want to just be careful because it can stick right away to the pan. Okay, this is like making porridge, and it cooks in about 10 minutes. And again, we're going to make it so that it's soft. And I want to, what else are we going to put with our, and I'm going to look while that is stirring. I told you not to run away from it, but I do want to make sure our eggplant is cooking. It's not quite browning like I'd like it to, but it's okay. It really is. I would like it to be brown, but it's going to be done. So being done is more important than it being brown. But ideally, you would want to put it in the oven and it will get nice and brown on like 400, 425 degrees. But you don't want to eat the eggplant till it's soft, okay? And what I was going to do, and I'm going to show you a little bit at a time, we're going to stir that. We're going to get off our broccoli. And time goes so quickly, Wendy. I don't know what happens. It just disappears.
You said
We
you were
have
ambitious, and you are. So we're maximizing the time. And for those of you
so
who need to leave at 6:30, totally understandable. If you can stay a bit longer, we won't finish much later than about 6:30.
no. We won't finish much later. We definitely won't. So I'm going to take one of the pieces of eggplant that is super done. It's a little bit falling apart, but that's okay. Again, I like it in the oven, but I was stubborn and said, no, I'm not going to put the oven on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is it's not quite a condiment, but I'm kind of making it a little fancier. Now, I used to do this salad always, not a salad, but I used to layer this eggplant and it would be with oil and balsamic vinegar, but I have really figured out a way not to do that. So I'm just cutting it in pieces, right? And it is soft. The fork is going through it, okay? It is done. Okay, and I have a little container. This is a cute little pumpkin, but you could just use a bowl, and you're gonna put a layer of eggplant in here. Okay, that's what you're gonna do. It doesn't have to be fancy layered. It can just be one layer. Okay, one layer, and I'm just gonna. You could smash it even, and I'm gonna take this tomatoes, and I'm gonna put it on top. Right, just a little bit on top. And then I'm going to take our balsamic dressing. You could take the vinaigrette too. Doesn't matter. I'm going to take the balsamic dressing that we made, and I'm going to put a little bit of the dressing on top and mix that in. And that's just going to be delicious, right? And then we're going to have some fresh basil, and we're going to cut that up too. And you're going to see, and we better stir the polenta because I'm talking and talking. It's cooking and doing super well. So
Carol,
let's
is
just
the polenta boiling or simmering?
boiling like crazy,
Great.
boiling like crazy. And
Okay.
then, so just so you're keeping track, I know I'm doing a lot of things at once, and this is my method of cooking, but you'll do one thing at a time. I have the eggplant. I put some sun-dried tomato puree. I'm calling it puree. And I put a little balsamic, and now I'm putting a layer of fresh basil. And now I'm going to put more eggplant on top. More eggplant. And I'm going to make another layer. It's just like when you make lasagna. Now I have to lower this, Wendy, because it's boiling so much that it's jumping out of the pot. And that happens. Whoa, stop. Be careful. It is going crazy because, see, it's not a gas flame and it just wants to keep, it's making a mess. And I don't like that. It's hard to cook on electric. One has to really practice at cooking on electric. I did lower it. I'm going to put it at low now because it's super, super boiling. And it's pretty liquidy. I can show it to you all right now. It's really liquidy. It's not clinging to the whip or anything. But the polenta's cooking. And that's good. And I'm going to literally keep it at medium. Now, remember, I just put the eggplant in. We're going to take the puree again, and we're going to put it on top, right? So we're kind of marinating. We're marinating the eggplant, and then we're going to put a teaspoon of the dressing all over, and it's basically going to absorb. Eggplant is like a sponge, right? And then we're going to put a little more fresh basil on top. And I'm going to go to the back to get another piece. Maybe I should take the tray with me, this thing. And that's done. And this is done. And this is done. And we're going to put a little water in that pan now, just a little bit of water. I'm going to do it right from here. And we're going to cook that Romanesco, just like if we were steaming it. And you could do broccoli, and I'm going to put that up because now we're not worried about the eggplant anymore because it's all cooked. And again, I'm cutting it into just little squares. And you're not going to believe this, but I didn't put the doggie away today because she was being very good and very quiet. And now she's sitting here at my feet. And I'm sure she wants to eat anything that I'm making here. And again, we're just putting this in here. It's almost like making a lasagna, almost. And the longer that this sits, the more delicious it gets. And a little bit of tomato puree on top, right? A little bit. That's going to absorb into the eggplant. I'm almost at the top of this container. And remember, I'm just putting like a teaspoon of dressing. This polenta is still boiling like crazy, even though it's on low. Okay, we're mixing it. It's perfect. And I'm going to put the last of the eggplant in here now. The last. I don't have very much basil left. That's okay. And then I'm just going to smash it all in. So it's all marinating. And this could be made days ahead of time if you want. But this is a really delicious way of preparing eggplant. So it's got a little bit of balsamic, some fresh basil. You could put oregano in there. I would just encourage you here to use the fresh herbs. And that's what you end up with, like that. Now that's going to eventually, that could be eaten cold, that could be eaten warm. You could just put it in the fridge and put it away. And let me just pull this away for a moment. And we only have one more thing to make, and I really think we can do it. We can do it. Let's just watch the Romanesco is cooking right now as we speak. The polenta, how are we going to finish it? The polenta is boiling like crazy. I do not like cooking it here on the little electric burner. I know I'm going to say that 5 times because it's making a mess. And I don't like a mess on my electric burner. But, so what are we going to do? Normally people put Parmesan cheese and they put butter. But we're going to definitely put, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon, just a little bit. I'm giving you somewhat a recipe here. We're going to put 1 teaspoon of miso. It can be any kind of miso. This particular one that I like is a chickpea miso. Okay, and then again, this is still boiling. I'm going to take it off. It's just driving me crazy on the burner here. It's not easy to control in the burner. It's just wanting to boil and the burner's hot. And then I'm going to take 1 tablespoon, 1 whole tablespoon of nutritional yeast. And I'm going to put that in there. And a little bit of black pepper, just a little bit. And this will be almost done. You do want to taste it. How do you know when it's done? You don't taste the grittiness of things. And that's immediately thickening it, the nutritional yeast. And I'm going to taste it just to see how it tastes, of course. Right? Just to see, because we want to get a spoon. And, I don't know if we're going to get to our salad, but that's okay. It is delicious, okay? That's all we needed. A little bit of miso, a little bit of nutritional yeast, and it is done. Now, what would I do with this normally? First of all, I'm going to move the burner because it's really super in my way. We are done with the balsamic, so we can get that out of our way. And we're going to serve this soft polenta, and we're going to put it in our bowl. Let me just move things here and here and here. Too many things. So we're going to serve the soft polenta. And we're going to get a pot holder. The Romanesco looks done. We're going to put the soft polenta in the bowl. Now, often I'll have a little bit left. That for me is enough. And if you've made a lot, it's okay to make a lot. You take a little plate and you're going to put the polenta right onto the plate. And tomorrow, you're going to then put a piece of saran wrap on top while it's still a little bit warm, and you're going to put it right into the refrigerator. And this is how people make cubed polenta or sticks of polenta. This polenta will get hard. You do want to cover it with a piece of plastic so that it doesn't get a film on it. And when it goes into the fridge tomorrow, I'll be able to flip this out. It'll be like a cake. It will look like a thin piece of cake, and you can cube it up and you can eat that in salad or eat it with any vegetables. But this is what I'm considering extra. Then we have and then what we're going to serve with our polenta right this minute is we're going to get our vegetable here. I'm going to get a bowl because it will be much easier to transport the bowl, and a spoon. And we're going to have our romesco. I'm going to just get these little, again, you could use broccoli. And we're going to put the vegetables on top like that, right? And tomatoes would be delicious, even though we have a tomato sauce. And then we're going to take a little bit of this out of here. And we're going to put this on top, right? Going to be delicious. Eggplant with tomato. And I like, you could add mushrooms to this. You could add, I like adding a few fresh tomatoes actually to this. Again, if you had roasted them, that would be lovely. And that is your soft polenta with vegetables. Okay, that's a meal.
Carole, that looks absolutely delicious. And again, you've got your greens, you've got your grains, you've got your eggplant and tomatoes, which are so healthy and very, very filling. Vegetables, grains, yeah, no beans.
You have everything.
Fine. It looks absolutely delicious. Mushrooms would be great in there too. Really, really, really delicious. Two amazing meals.
Two amazing meals. And the last one that I'm just going to show you in 5 seconds, literally 5 seconds so we can end. Salad, okay? Greens, just mixed greens, right? Mixed greens. I'd like to put a little bit of, I'll get a spoon out. This is my favorite thing. I put a little, this is red quinoa. I just put a little quinoa. We're going to have we talked a little bit about mung beans. We didn't talk about their amazing nutritional facts. Mung beans are a forgotten legume. They're high in fiber, high in protein. They're actually good, they say, for your lowering your bad LDL. And mung beans, I just want to remind everyone to don't forget about this wonderful bean. I'm just going to put the beans on there like that, right? So we're making a salad of greens. We could put a few of the pickled onions because why? Because I eat them all the time, and we're going to use them. You could, again, just use scallions. And then I don't want you to be afraid to mix the fruit, right? You're going to mix fruit. I have radishes here. We could cut up some radishes for crunch. Let's try to do that. Can't do everything here. Where did I go with my little knife? Here, we're doing this. And I wanted to show you one more thing, and then we will be done. I've outcrowded myself here. Someone recently gave me a bag, literally, of fresh herbs. And I opened it up, and it's got oregano, it's got mint, and at the bottom of this bag, believe it or not, and I'm really digging this out to show you, are fennel fronds. They just must have a lot of fennel in their garden, but they do. And fronds in a salad are a game changer. People throw these out, and a little bit of mint, because I have mint in this bag, literally a little bit of mint. We could chop it up. We'll just tear it up. Is going to change up your salad. That's what I want. This is why I left this out, was to show you that just a little bit of something, whether it's got to be a fresh something. So it could be mint, could be the fronds, it could be sorrel in that bag. I have fresh oregano too. Okay, so that's going on the salad, right? But else is going to go on the salad? A few strawberries. Wendy started the program talking about fresh strawberries, and we're going to put some fruit on the salad. We're going to put a few blackberries and a few blueberries. And you could even, if you wanted, you could put a pumpkin seed or two, sesame seeds, whatever you want. But here's a salad, right?
Amazing.
And then you would use this wonderful lemon herb vinaigrette on top of the salad. And you have got a delicious salad with protein, vegetable, fruits, legumes, lots of different greens. And I promise you, this is like no salad you've ever had, because you've added so many incredible flavors. And every time I make a salad every day, I think, what else could I add to it? What other different thing can really change this up? Last week I had fava beans. I had fresh fava beans, and I just put them on top. And I was just like, oh my God, I have to eat the salad every day while fava beans are out. So you can do what you want. I'm just showing you to try to think about being as creative as possible. And there are no limitations to what we call salads. And to learn to think a little bit out of the box and mix it up. And I thank you, Wendy. I'm sorry you're at deadline time for announcements, but I just really wanted to show the salad.
It's super. And also, for everyone, what was so fun about tonight is a lot of this was just improvised from what was in Carole's pantry and in her fridge. And the idea that she mentioned of keeping dressings just on hand, or dressings that you could make up so quickly, as you can see, makes all these dishes: the grains, the vegetables, the greens, the beans, the onions, the mushrooms, the salads, the raw veggies. Carole, just a super, super evening. So thank you very much. Well,
Thank you for staying with me the whole time.
You've got wonderful comments from the audience as usual. I'm sure most of us just want to come have dinner now. I certainly do. And Bonnie, I think, was cooking along with you, so that was pretty cool. For everyone, I won't go through all the announcements again, but please do check out the website, because we do have some terrific programs, online and in-person programs, coming up here in the city. And let's see, Carole can be reached at carole@theveggievanguard.com, or on Instagram @theveggievanguard. You can register for all of our Plant Powered Metro New York events at www.plantpoweredmetronewyork.org. And our next demo with Chef Carole is July, is it 28th? I think it's July 28th. It's a Sunday in July. Sorry, I don't have it. Wait, I announced it earlier. Let me find it. It is July 28th. So please come, and you can register on our page on our website. And a huge thank you, as always, to Jim Spellos, who's our producer and who's behind the scenes. The show wouldn't be what it is without him. And thank you, David Bowles, for all of his contributions. And thank you, the entire team, to Plant Powered Metro New York. So on behalf of Carole and myself and our team, we're going to remind you to eat your fruits and veggies and nuts and beans and seeds and stay healthy. And a goodbye from Isla.